Everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I have an update to share about one of Trump's Capitol insurrectionists. It's time for an episode of Where Are They Now?
Matthew Bledsoe was arrested.
Patrick Montgomery was in court.
Jonathan Manapa will stay in federal custody.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
So this one is a little bit dated, but I want to keep you guys posted on all of the news and not miss any. So 53-year-old Anthony Mariotto is a Florida resident. He was seen in photos and video inside the Capitol on January 6th. In one video that Mariotto recorded, he was seen trying to open locked office doors, and he was chanting with the crowd, quote, "Where are the traitors?" Mariotto is one of the few who made it all the way into the Senate chamber, where he took a selfie and he posted it on Facebook and wrote, quote, "I'm in and there are just a few. This is our house." Mariotto must have realized at some point how stupid this was to share his crimes on social media, because shortly after, he deleted his Facebook account. Unfortunately for him, it was too late. After receiving some tips, the FBI interviewed Mariotto on January 16th, and he did admit to entering the Capitol, and he admitted that he knew he didn't have the authority to do so. But he told the investigators he wanted to be part of history. Mission accomplished, Mariotto. Probably not in the way you hoped, but you will be. So Mariotto also told the FBI agents that he'd accept full responsibility for his actions, not that he has any choice. He also followed through on that promise, though, by voluntarily meeting again with the agents. They met on January 19th, and he did hand over his cell phone. So he did cooperate. He wasn't a jerk about it. Mariotto was arrested a few days after that on January 22nd, and he was charged with 5 misdemeanors. So he was hit with the standard 4, entering a restricted building or grounds, 2 counts of disorderly conduct, and parading or demonstrating in a Capitol. But they also hit him with 1 count of entering the Gallery of Congress, which is not really much of anything. It adds another 6 months to a possible sentence. Well, in September of last year, Mariotto agreed to plead guilty to the parading charge, which I find confusing because most everyone who entered the Senate has been forced to plead to a greater charge, and they've received prison time. So I'm not quite sure why they let him off, other than the fact that he did cop to and he did give them all of his stuff. So that's the only thing I can assume or figure. And prosecutors were asking for time in jail, and they requested 4 months in prison, 36 months of probation, and a $500 restitution fee. Anyway, at the plea hearing, U.S. District Judge Reggie Walton told Mariotto, quote, "I find it outrageous that American citizens would do what you did, so you better walk the straight and narrow. You've disgraced this country in the eyes of the world, and my inclination would be to lock you up." Judge Walton also asked Mariotto, quote, "What if the next time around the Democrats lose the presidency and Democrats rise up and go to the Capitol and start a riot? I guess you think that would be all right in light of what you did?" So Mariotto answered no. And at the sentencing hearing, prosecutors argued that even though Mariotto hadn't committed any acts of violence himself, he did stand by and record multiple incidences of violence against officers. And he did nothing. The prosecutor said, quote, "He stood by and watched officers being overrun. He stood by and recorded officers being assaulted, and he never left. He went further into the building each time, trying to open those locked doors. He wanted to intimidate our elected officials into doing what he thought was right. He didn't commit any violence. However, he certainly didn't seem to mind that it was happening." So Mariotto's attorney countered that and argued for probation only because basically they said, he suffered enough. His attorney told the judge that he was suspended from his 25-year job as a pork trader, and he lost a $109,000 plus salary plus a year-end bonus. Suspended is not the same thing as fired. And, wait, you're telling me that this guy who went to the Capitol to try to terrorize people, makes his living off of the terrorization and suffering of other living beings, pigs that are smarter and just as sensitive and loving as dogs. Wow, color me shocked. Anyway, Mariotto apologized for his actions. He said, quote, "I do apologize. I know you hear this every day and people are remorseful or whatever, but I sincerely mean it. I feel like crap. It's my first protest. I got caught up in the moment. I understand I ran my mouth. I get it, but I would never do anything to anybody, and I never undermined me going in there." I'm assuming he means he never tried to deny it. I don't know what he meant. But anyway, then Mariotto got into a very interesting back and forth with the judge. Mariotto told the judge that in going into the Capitol, he hoped that, quote, they would just pause the election. The election was done. Election was done months before, guy. We were on to the counting of the Electoral College phase. Anyway, he told the judge that, quote, "I wish President Biden would have won by billions of votes and none of this would have happened." So the judge snapped back and said, quote, "He won by 7 million. And then Mariotto replied, quote, "I hoped he won by 1 billion. Who wants to tell this guy how many people there are in the United States? Does he realize there are not 1 billion people in the United States? And even how many of the people who are here are registered voters? So the judge reiterated again that Biden won by 7 million votes. And then he said, quote, "which I think is more than any other president's ever won by." And then Mariotto seemed to pivot a bit because he must have realized how ridiculous and nonsensical this was. So he told Judge Walton, quote, "What I'm saying is I wish everybody would have come together. It's just amazing how we're just so divided in this country. It's everything: vaccines, math, elections. It's just like it never ends, and I'm getting caught up in it. But I can just tell you, I would never hurt anybody." Math? What the hell is he talking about? What the hell happened with math? Did I miss something? If I missed something about math, can someone drop it in the comment section below? And, I don't know, if you don't like how divided the country is, maybe don't try to take away my vote and millions of other people by denying that we won, by denying that Biden won. Anyway, the judge seems to be at this point at his wit's end with all of this in the proceeding, because he started talking about people who are, quote, gullible enough to fall for, quote, ridiculous allegations. And that judges across the nation had rejected these ideas. And he said that the notion that what took place on January 6th, quote, was a peaceful event by loving people who are patriots was, quote, hogwash. Judge Walton also said, quote, "The people who did what happened on January 6th were not patriotic. They were anything other than patriotic." Unfortunately, even after all of this, even after Judge Walton's tirade, he sentenced Mariotto to no jail time. Instead, he gave him 3 years of probation and 250 hours of community service. And he ordered Mariotto to pay a $5,000 fine and $500 in restitution. Again, this makes no sense considering that others who entered the Senate chamber received time behind bars, some of them pretty substantial. The only difference I see is that he didn't go down to the floor of Congress. He wasn't on the Senate floor, whereas some of the others were. But what's the difference? He still went in to the Senate chamber. I just want it all to make sense. Is that too much to ask? And I don't know if this judge maybe just gave him probation because there still is hanging out there that question about the split sentencing. I don't know. He didn't explain. So we're left to guess. but not good enough, not good enough at all. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care. I'll talk with you soon.